Hey everyone, it's Trevor Barroero, Black Swamp artist and principal percussionist of the Tucson Symphony Orchestra. In this video, we're going to look at the fundamentals of woodblock playing using Black Swamp's Overture Woodblocks. This video is geared towards band directors and developing percussionists who want a clear, reliable approach that works in real rehearsals and concerts. The Overture series is a line of entry-level instruments designed by concert percussionists with a sound specifically intended for band and orchestra performance. So even though these blocks are student-friendly, they're absolutely capable of producing a clear, professional sound. Today we'll talk about setup, mallet choices, where to strike the block, some practice exercises, and a couple of musical examples so you can hear how the woodblock functions inside an ensemble. Now, Black Swamp's Overture woodblocks are made from solid exotic rubber wood, and they're designed specifically for band and orchestral playing. In this set, I have three sizes: small, medium, and large. Now, some band programs might only have one woodblock, and that's totally okay. We'll talk about some things you can do with a single block, and then we'll explore some different options if you have multiple pitches. Now, just like any small accessory instrument, the surface on which you put the woodblock makes a big difference. My first choice is always a sturdy trap table. If you don't have that, you can technically put it on a solid music stand, but it has to be tightened down so it doesn't wobble and, hopefully not, drop the woodblock onto the floor. Now, whatever surface you use, I would suggest putting a thick black towel underneath the block. That does two things. It protects the block and it keeps the stand from rattling or adding any extra noise. It also just looks a lot more professional too. You can also technically hold the woodblock in one hand and strike it with the other. And this can work great for slower solo passages where only one hand is needed to execute the rhythm. But for many band and orchestral parts, keeping it safely on a table is the simplest and most convenient option by far. In terms of orientation, I usually don't point the opening directly towards the audience because that can be a little too aggressive and loud. So instead, I'll turn this opening towards myself, and then if I need more projection in a louder passage, I can rotate that around and point it towards the audience. Mallet choice on woodblocks can vary a lot based on context, but my default is usually a nice rubber mallet. It gives a strong, clear attack without being too harsh. Let's listen how the sound of the woodblocks change when I switch between different hardnesses of rubber mallets. Obviously, all of those options are completely valid, but sometimes drumsticks are the right option, especially in band music where you might be moving quickly from a snare drum part to a woodblock. Using the beat of the stick on the surface of the woodblock works great for fast rhythms where you might need to do snare drum type rudiments. If I need a louder, fuller sound on single notes, I'll use more of the shoulder of the stick. The beating area makes a huge difference in sound, and it's going to vary slightly from block to block. I like to spend a little bit of time just finding that sweet spot on the block, and it's usually somewhere around the center of the top surface, favoring the side with the opening. To give you an idea of what to listen for, here's a bad or a dead beating spot. And here's the type of sound we want. For students, it can help to use a pencil to draw a small X on the ideal beating spot. That gives a quick visual cue of exactly where to hit, and it keeps the sound consistent every time. Just like with our mallet instruments, we want to strike the surface and immediately lift off the instrument, not press into the instrument. So the stick or mallet should rebound cleanly off of the surface of the block so that the sound can ring. If you leave the stick on the block, you're just going to choke the tone and it can get thin and lifeless. Now let's look at our basic strokes across a variety of dynamic levels. First, a simple medium dynamic stroke with a rubber mallet in the sweet spot on the block. This is your default for most band and orchestra writing: clear, centered, and not too bright. For quieter or more blended passages, I'll often move a bit closer to the back edge of the block and I'll use a lighter touch. You can also switch to a slightly softer mallet if you have one, but you really can get a lot done with just your touch. Now for accented or louder passages, I would use a slightly bigger stroke height and make sure you're lifting clear off of the block surface. Great example of that accented, consistent sound is that woodblock part in John Adams' A Short Ride in a Fast Machine. That's worth giving a listen to. Now let's take all of that info and put it into a few simple exercises. First exercise, dynamic control on a single block. We're going to play a measure of loud 16th notes, a measure of day crescendo 16th notes, a measure of quiet 16th notes, and then a measure of crescendoing 16th notes, and then repeat again on each of the blocks. Now to practice using drumsticks on our woodblocks, we need to get familiar with the feel of the rebound since it's very different than a regular snare drum head. Let's try just a basic diddle grid to practice. Great, now that we've done some exercises, let's talk briefly about woodblocks in real music. One classic band example is Sousa's Fairest of the Fair. There's a quick change from snare drum to woodblock with a fun part that cuts through the texture and adds a really bright rhythmic layer to the music. It's a great example of why clarity and consistent beating spot on these instruments matter. So I'll play a section of the snare drum part on this Black Swamp Percussion concert maple piccolo snare drum, and then I'll go straight into that woodblock passage. That's a quick overview of woodblock playing with the Black Swamp Percussion Overture woodblocks. Focus on a solid setup, consistent beating area, and a clean rebound, and you'll get a clear, focused sound that works every time. I hope this helps you feel more confident with your woodblock parts in your next rehearsal or concert, and thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out the other videos in the Overture series for tambourine, castanets, triangle, and more.